Hi guys, today we're gonna build the Lumix GH7 into the ideal run and gun documentary camera. I'm right now in Ukraine, that's why this studio is a bit improvised. This camera build is gonna be for the solo type shooter that wants flexibility without carrying a whole large camera rig that you would maybe typically see in a larger type of shoots where you have a box camera with a monitor. This is something that you will just be able to throw around your neck with a strap and just have it shooting professional, perfect, beautiful image in 4K, but also something that is very portable. And that's something that's working very well for me here in Ukraine. I will just show how I build this, what pieces I put on this camera, and what they are for. Why do I pick them? So what and why? First off, we have the Lumix GH7 here. This is an awesome camera for a bunch of reasons. It has great phase detect autofocus, it has a great in-body stabilization. The sensor in this camera is very small and it has a lot of space to move around inside the camera body. So that gives you great stabilization, and that is advantageous when you're doing run and gun, because that means that you're not having necessarily a tripod or easy rig or something like that. This is something that you just have and that you want to throw out and get stable footage. And stable footage is one of these things that will make the image look more cinematic. It can record in ProRes RAW HQ. Internally, you don't need anything outside the camera. It will record that onto a CFast Express card. This camera is very well weather sealed. It's -10 right now. It was snowing yesterday. It held up perfectly. This last spring I had it in Kenya. It was +40, dusty, sandy, and it did perfectly well there as well. So really pushing this camera body, and it's built for that. The GH series is built for that type of work. Those are some reasons why I think this camera specifically is a great run and gun camera. It has some drawbacks. The base ISO on this camera is 500, so we will address that with this build as well. And as mentioned, I'm in Ukraine right now. We're actually running this light setup and everything from a battery that is in the corridor here. It's powering my computer and everything, and I didn't bring my Keylight, so we're having this grocery bag on top of a desktop light. So we're just using whatever we can here, and that's the philosophy I like when being out in the field, not to carry everything and just improvise as you go, and usually that's the best way to do it, because you can't always bring your whole kit and your whole studio everywhere you go. And that's like kind of how we're gonna run this channel, and the philosophy here, like improvise and solve real-world problems with the few things we get, and what we do have is something high quality and something that will be reliable. We're gonna start out with the basics. The first thing I do with all my camera bodies, I put a screen protector on there, and then going on to the battery. This camera takes two cards, a SD card and the CFast Express card. I use a SD card for the photos in the camera. I separate those two so the photos go to the SD card. And here I use a Lexar Professional 1667X, that's for the photos. And for the video stuff, I have a 512GB card, Lexar Professional 1750 MB per second card. This has been perfect for me. I can record in ProRes RAW HQ with this without limitation, so I'm very happy with that. There we go. The reason why I like a camera cage is that not only is it protection for the camera, but this cage has also this little tongue on the front of the camera, which gives you some additional support when you're having a lens on. You can start rig this out now, you can put additional parts on it, and most importantly you have a second hot shoe mount. Having only one hot shoe mount here is not enough for my use case, and I'm going to explain that with the parts that we're going to put on. But let's just put this cage on first now. This is the screw that's going to put the camera onto the plate. We just want to get that hard enough so it touches there we go. So you still have some play like that, and that is so that you can fix the little bit like so, not too much. That's just to keep the camera in place, and now we can start adding some pressure. Something like that. I'm happy with that. Like that. Like that. Okay. This is by UU-Rig, and it's simply just a side grip with the hot shoe mount on. I've never been a huge fan of the top grip together with the monitor, because that's how you then will be pretty much locked to carrying the camera. I can work through days 1 week, 2 weeks, just carrying the camera everywhere all the time to document whatever is around me and for the clients I am with. So I want to be able to just leave the camera and have it on the side sometimes. And also, when you carry the camera like this and you have your lens, which can be kind of heavy, you will support the camera weight in your left hand while you operate the lens, and with the right hand you will be operating the buttons, and intuitively the weight of the camera will be on your left hand. That gives you one point of contact mostly with the camera, and that will also result in very shaky footage. You want to have optimal 3 points of contact with the camera, and that's to mitigate all the micro jitters. So the way I do that is, instead of having this here with all the weight on one hand, I put this here, and this forces you to put 50-50% of the camera weight in each hand, and then with the neck strap I usually pull the camera a little bit out. I have a video explaining that, and with that you get a very stable shot. These are the mounting points for the Peak Design strap, which I'm a big fan of. I like to have these on the side, so usually I have the camera something like this, monitor out, and just record here. What is this? This is an additional hot shoe mount. These two sit very close together, and that's not very advantageous when you're starting to mount stuff on top of the camera, because they will disrupt each other. That's the basic principle of why I like this. It also adds some protection from the buttons here when you have the camera hanging on the side, moving around, hit whatever. You also have this. So you have some pretty good flexibility here now on a small camera body, and we're going to get into that very soon. So as mentioned, this is a Micro Four Third system. The problem people have with that is that it's a small sensor, and there are a couple of disadvantages for having a small sensor. The crop is going to be more narrow, not so wide. When you have a lens, you have to do some calculations in comparison to a full frame camera, and you will also get a picture that has less blur. The bokeh, if you want to call it that. There is a solution for that, and that is to mount a speed booster on the camera. And Metabones did a really good job with the GH7 here, where they updated their software to match the face detection really well in the GH7. It works very well with the Sigma 18-35 that we're going to put on here in a second. And I did the video test on that too, so you can see how the face detection autofocus work with that. Really what this is just a magnifier glass that will magnify the light coming through the lens onto the sensor. And that covers so that you get a wider image and you also get more light onto the sensor. And that mitigates those two problems. This is a MFT to EF speed booster, so I can get full frame EF lenses on this camera now. And you see that it also translates the electronics. So you have EF electronics here going to the MFT electronics of the camera. So this is the lens that we're going to use. This is a Sigma 18-35. I put 2 focus rings on it because that protects the lens a little bit when you put it on the... It gives some protection, and it also gives you some assistance when you're doing the zoom and the focus. The Sigma is a 1.7, 1.8, I'm not quite sure, but together with the speed booster you can now get that stop all the way down to 1.3, so that in low light is fantastic. And you can also get that ISO up to 3200 to 5000, somewhere like that, and still have a pretty clean image. I wouldn't push it beyond ISO 5000. Alright guys, this is Adrian from the future. I want to show you this crop factor calculator that you can use online. I will put the link in the description for this. So we're using a Micro Four Third sensor. The focal length is the Sigma 18-35. We'll start at 18mm. The focal reducer is the Metabones 0.71x. So here we can see that the full frame equivalent will be a 25.56mm lens. When we push that up to 35mm, we will have it a 50mm lens equivalent of a full frame. So back to the video. The microphone that I use is this one. This is a Rode VideoMic NTG. It's an active microphone with a battery inside, meaning that you have to charge it with USB-C. I was studying audio for 6 years in high school and in university, and I've been comparing a bunch of different microphones in all different types in studio environments, and so I'm happy with this microphone. I'm sure there are better shotgun microphones that are passive where you have to have a preamp and stuff like that, but we can't afford that on this camera when we want to have something small. We want to have as good as audio as possible, yet have this as portable as possible. They include this clamp, and you have 3 spaces now on the camera to put that. Usually I would put it here. And then the audio cable. Might want to do some cable management here. In the perfect YouTube world, you would just call this a day and put that on it. But microphones are very sensitive to wind, and when we're recording outdoors, you will want to use something like this. This is something that will guide the wind above and not on the membrane of the microphone, and that's something that you absolutely need when it's windy. When you're indoors or when it's perfectly wind still, you can get away using this. But as soon as you get some wind, snow, whatever, you want to get into using that. And now will start making sense to why I want to put this far aside, because we'll soon get into talking about putting light on the camera as well, so you can't have these squeezed together. This is fine as a setup with the 3 point of contact, and you have this monitor coming out. Most cameras go with this, and that is just very hard to work with. Personally, I much prefer to have the monitor like this. It's tilting out from the camera. It's solid, doesn't move, because it has this system with the rods here keeping the monitor in place. It will not be moving anything. When you're a solo operator, you can't carry an additional lamp or a keylight, something like that, have that tied to your cap, a headlight. I don't know, maybe that will work for some people. What I like to do is a trick that I see TV1 in Sweden is doing it. TV4 has been doing it as well when I've been with them. I did that for 2 days before Chassis VR as well. It's just these tiny key lights here. It's powered by USB-C. You don't want it off camera anywhere. You just want it having the light from the direction of the camera. And this is something that you can carry in your pocket and have it like, you know, just pull it out, which is kind of the point with this build. There we go. Now when the microphone and lamp is close together and you're filming a subject, you will notice that the microphone might give a shadow from the light, and that's why I like to have those as far apart as possible. And even on the mount here, if I still have that shadow as a problem when I'm recording my subject, I can now move that to the handle here. And now you most certainly not have a huge shadow from the microphone in front of you when you're filming. This is not something that will earn the award for the most beautiful camera related thumbnail on YouTube for 2026. Absolutely not. It does its job. You have good audio here, and you have light for your subject with the raw recording capability, and you're holding it, you have a stable shot. That's the whole point of this. It's a one-man band kind of setup that you can run and do your documentary stuff with. We are now going to get on to the last part of this build, which is the ND filter. So when you're recording and it's very bright outside, you will be limited by that the image is too bright. So you will have to close the aperture to f20, f22. You will not be able to get that depth of field that you get when you're in a lower aperture. So to solve that problem, you need a variable neutral density filter. So when you're buying an ND filter, you always want to buy one threaded at 82, would be my advice, because some lenses will be threaded at 82, they're larger, and if you buy a smaller one that is adapted for example this one, which is 72mm thread, you will not be able to reverse that to putting that onto a larger lens. So it's better to buy a larger ND filter and then have these step-up rings that goes up in between the steps to the 82mm. This is a KNF Concept Nano X 82mm variable ND, goes from ND2 to 32. This is the one I use the most because it's just simply something that you will screw onto the camera, and it will just sit there and do variable 2 to 32, and no tricks, will not fall off. Now there's another ND filter that I want to show that is by Freewell. They were kind enough to send me this. This is a more of an experimental type of ND filter that also gives you polarization. In some circumstances you will be filming through windows, and when it's very bright and snowy outside and you have all these reflections, you have to have polarization on top. So to solve that you can have something like this. Now this has 2 spinning modes. The first one is when you sort of the same grip that you have putting the filter on the thread, if you push those together, you can spin the whole filter, and that will adjust the strength of the polarization. And then you can spin this other ring out on top of that, will give you their equivalent of ND3 to ND7. But you have all these things where you have to clip this on and like this with the protection. So relying on that, when you have all these other factors that you have to worry about, having a ND filter that might fall off the camera is not something that I'm comfortable working with. So I just have that if I'm in such a recording situation where I want the polarization and I have like time and flexibility to be experimenting a bit. That's it guys for this Lumix GH7 build. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you got some inspiration from this video on how you can build your camera rig. So take care, see you in the next video.